After a nail-biting finish in the EU and NA Central Major 1 finals, let's take a look at exactly how both of our winners pulled through in the very last game. Veno, Vico and Flickzy were the favourites going into the EU finals after an incredibly dominant season. And heading into Game 12, they were 43 points ahead of Malibuca's team in second place. With how consistent this team have been in early fights, it looked like the win was impossible to throw away. That was until Flickzy gets snuck up on and eliminated in an early fight, leaving Veno and Vico to try and escape. Thankfully, the duo returned to a trio, as Flickzy can get rebooted, but they're so deep in Storm and needing to rotate in. While this is happening, the team in second place, Malibuca, Ping and Wox, are dealt a huge blow, as Malibuca gets beamed and eliminated by Mr. Savage, leaving Ping and Wox to try and clutch. With our top two teams wounded and behind on their game plan, the door is wide open for Vanya, Pixie and Marius to take home the title. But after getting a fortunate 6th zone pull, they get beamed and eliminated within seconds, crushing their hopes of winning this FNCS or qualifying to Globals. It's now back to a 2-horse race between Veno and Malibuca's trios. Because of their reboot and Storm fight, Veno, Vico and Flickzy have to late rotate into the zone with their Void-only masks. But when they eventually do get in, they get sprayed by multiple teams, knocking Veno and Flickzy, leaving Vico to solo clutch. He can only manage to do this up to 19th place when he gets eliminated, meaning they get no placement points and only 8 points from the 2 eliminations. Over to you, Malibuca. Thankfully for this trio, they managed to reboot Malibuca in the early game, so we're a full trio going into the late stages of the game. Until, in the exact moment that Vico fell, Malibuca and Wox also went down, meaning to overtake first place, Ping needed a top 4 as a solo. Throughout this entire endgame, he was staying alive, clutching up as many placement points as he could with barely any materials. That was until he ran into the wrong box and got caught out by Demus, ending their run in the game but securing the qual to Globals and the championship for Veno, Vico and Flickzy. NA Central's Major 1 finals came down to a difference of just 4 eliminations between first and second, in one of the closest finishes we've seen in history. Throughout the entire season, Peterbot, Ritual and Cold have been dominating all of the tournaments, even winning every single Div 1 Cup final. However, going into the last game of the Major 1 finals, they were trailing Acorn, Ajerss and Peterbot's ex-teammate Pollo by 59 points. This was a big difference, especially considering the consistency of Acorn's team throughout the whole weekend. But crazier things have happened. The start of the game saw a twist to the tale as Peterbot's team were contested at Flooded Frogs by a team much lower down on the leaderboard, looking to break into the top 25. Of course, because Peterbot's team had more knowledge of the drop, they managed to eliminate 2 of the 3 players, leaving 1 to run away. All while our leaders, Acorn, Ajerss and Pollo, had an uncontested drop at Night Shift Forest and could play out their early game as they usually do, getting Surge and ensuring that they make it to the endgame. All was looking good for them until Ajerss and Pollo get knocked when boxing up in zone, leaving Acorn to clutch the fight and keep their title hopes alive. The experience of Acorn shows in this fight as he waits for the player to aggress his box before hitting a huge shot to eliminate him and keep his team in the game. This gives Peterbot a huge mountain to climb, and with the zones continuing to pull max distance, the conditions are grueling, but they keep plowing on. Acorn's team had a much more enjoyable time in this endgame as they were controlling the game from high ground, up until Peterbot and co triple TP onto height and take it off them. So many teams in this situation would try to fight for the high ground, but Acorn's experience tells him to drop down and play out his mats on the low ground layers. At this point, Peterbot and Cold are racking up so many eliminations down below, while Ritual sprays down from above. It really looks like they're gonna do it, especially since Acorn has now gone down, and it's all up to Pollo and Ajerss to clutch as a duo, which they do really well and get this team a 4th place. Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual then take out the final player to secure them first place in this game with 16 eliminations, a massive performance from them. But it wasn't enough for them to overtake first place, and by only 14 points, the FNCS Major 1 crown went to Acorn, Pollo, and Ajerss. Thankfully for us though, we'll be seeing both teams at the Global Championships. These two incredible games closed out an amazing Major 1 for FNCS in 2025. And this only makes us more excited for what Major 2 brings later this year.